All right, everyone. Yesterday we got a somewhat ominous warning, actually, from House Intel that there was a major national security threat that needed to be looked into, and the claim was that the Biden administration should declassify things so that the Congress can look into it, and our allies and so forth. The rest of NATO. And now we're getting scuttlebutt that the national security threat is a proposal by Russia. It hasn't been implemented yet. To put nukes in space. Yes, it's ominous. Satellites tipped with nuclear weapons, against which there's pretty much no actual defense. This is banned by convention, but what I would note is that over the past decade, a number of conventions have been willfully violated by Russia and scrapped by the United States as well. Like, for instance, I believe the intermediate ballistic missile ban, Russia's begun to ignore that and deployed them. The United States went back to missile testing that originally it had agreed not to perform, and it's just an escalation on both sides. I'm going to point something out to the liberals that are hopping mad right now and saying, oh my god, the Russians are going to nuke us, which, I mean, it might happen. Maybe we have World War III. Why do you think I'm expanding the garden and making so much fucking biochar? Gotta eat something. Man does not live on squirrels that shot with an air rifle alone. And I'm glad to get that AR-15 and stack some good ammo for that one. That's for sure. Now, can't hunt deer with it legally, but I suppose in a nuclear war situation, you probably don't get in trouble for it because there's nobody to fine you. This money means nothing anymore. It's basically harvest resources and try to survive for an extended period of time. I'm going to be getting some potassium iodide too, because I think the shit that I had before, it's still kind of good, but it won't be forever, and I don't know when this nuclear war will pop off. I'm being slightly facetious. I'm not predicting that there's actually Armageddon at this time over the Russian space nuke thing. But aren't you glad that Donald Trump created a space force so that maybe there's the possibility of counteracting this basic premise? You send the Space Marines up there and you destroy their nuclear satellite in James Bond style, and maybe we, live another day or die another day. Pun intended. I think that's a good idea. He was mocked for that, by the way. You remember when Trump said he wanted to create a space force and people were making all sorts of memes about the U.S. Army up in space and armed with lasers and shit like that, and wearing the astronaut armor and stuff like that. Well, actually, the real purpose is, hey, we want to establish a military foothold outside of, the atmosphere itself in order to prevent anyone from fucking around. Then Joe Biden gets elected, and he denigrates the Space Marine concept, which I think is unwise. What happens? Russia fucks around. Imagine that. It hasn't happened before. They totally didn't pop off in Ukraine for a reason. We're seeing this more and more and more. When we have weak and failed leadership in the United States, bad things tend to occur. Like it or not, my fellow Americans, we are the police of the Western world. We don't really have a choice because nobody else is capable of doing it, and because of the complex trade and travel networks that have been established in postmodern society. If you throttle back, you end up with Russia and China effectively controlling everything. They might retaliate for, the whole Cold War thing if they get the upper hand. I'm just saying that, and I say this as not really a peacenik, but a war skeptic. I'm skeptical of fighting. I don't like the idea. I think that we should all be at peace. If it were up to me, we would sing Kumbaya, sign a peace deal with the Russians today, and form an alliance with them. That diplomatically currently is not a pragmatic solution, though. It's just not physically possible at this time. Insofar as there's going to be brinksmanship over having nuclear weapons platforms in the upper, floating around over Earth, maybe we should try to prevent that from happening. Now, sane proposal would be use diplomacy. Hey, can you please not violate that particular convention? Can we just talk about this? Because this is getting a little bit out of hand. We don't really want nukes floating around 50,000 feet above us, or whatever the fuck level satellites operate at. I'm not actually sure. And because it's just not good. We're going to be forced to put our own satellite nukes up there. And probably build more nukes, because, we'll need to replace the ones that used to be on the ground or in a plane. And, we re-enter the hot Cold War, basically. Things go in the wrong direction for long enough. And eventually you have a Kissinger moment and you end up with World War III. And very few people will survive. Oh, most of them won't get vaporized. No, they're not. I mean, they're not going to hit Rutland with a nuke. It's just that the water system will break down and half the city will die of cholera within a year, mainly. The water system literally right out in back of the house. They had to fence it off because people's dogs were shitting right next to the reservoir. So now I can't even go up in that direction. You used to be able to walk all the way to the edge of Mendon. There was a logging trail up there, actually, that was maintained by the water company. I don't know for what reason. You cross the road and you're in the Green Mountain National Forest. Now there's a fence in the way. And you can go around it if you just go into the creek and forge your way up there for about 100 yards and cross to the other side. But it's not as convenient as it was before. People like to shit in their own water. Dog owners. You know, it's like fucking Jesus Christ. Pick up after your animal. But anyway, you know, that's problematic enough. But no, most people die of cholera. Now here we've got a well, but without electricity, pumping the water is going to be a little bit difficult. And of course, you can put up a generator or something. Good luck fucking finding the fuel for it when the world transit system breaks down. You can put up a solar array with a battery. That's perfectly fine. You'll have to disconnect it from the grid and do some electrical work in order to actually use your own energy. By the way, that's a big problem, automatic shutoffs and stuff like that. That's fine, but you'll be on brownout mode. So today I drink water. Tomorrow I guess I have to use my survival straw. I've got one of those over there. They're really cool, by the way. Charcoal filter. You can even drink radioactive water with one of those. So I would ask Moscow, can you please not put nukes in space? Because like right now, U.S. leadership is so feckless, things might actually pop off. If Trump were president and Russia proposed this, I would chuckle about it. Oh, yeah, well, we've had a space force for a number of years. We'll beat you to putting the nukes in space, and again, you still get the brinksmanship, but at least the White House leadership that has the nuclear codes and stuff, I would trust, generally speaking. And I don't trust anybody who's in D.C. fully. Fuck, I don't even trust Rand Paul fully. But when you have people like that, like Rand Paul or Thomas Massie or Donald Trump running the show generally, things tend to be more calm. The second that you have shit leadership in D.C. that reverts to the Bush-Obama era, all of a sudden the Russians are planning to put nukes up in a satellite. All of a sudden Ukraine gets invaded. Hamas crosses the border into Israel, starting the biggest war there since the fucking 1960s. China starts looking at Taiwan with greedy eyes, salivating, saying, maybe we can pull this off. Venezuela, a commie country, decides, hey, Guyana, you had 2/3 of your land area actually used to be historically ours, and you got a lot of oil, so we're claiming it officially. We might annex you. It's interesting. When U.S. leadership breaks down and nobody's running the show, it's a cabal behind the scenes pulling all of the strings, bad things happen. Trump's had foresight, by the way. Again, he was laughed at when he decided to form a space force. Who's laughing now? He was right yet again. That's about all. Peace out.